How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. The Bungie dilemma just doesn't seem to be going away, and more news is coming out. And the news today, of course, is involving Xbox. No, not the news that it's Xbox's fault or Xbox's players are to blame because they didn't buy the game. Well, when the game was on Game Pass, it was getting that nice, sweet Game Pass money. It was Sony's decision to remove it off Game Pass because they didn't want to put Destiny onto Game Pass for the Game Pass users and take that Game Pass money. So the fact that they removed it off Game Pass and threw away all that money, that's a Sony issue. And that could have at least worked some way towards alleviating some of the losses they made, but they decided that they didn't want that Game Pass money. I bet they're regretting that decision now, but it turns out there's a bit more information to this, and I think it's quite interesting. Now, there is this Tom Warren post here. I have this bit covered up because my kid is sleeping in the back, and obviously I don't want him appearing on the video. But Tom Warren says Microsoft was eyeing up acquiring Bungie in 2021, but flagged a high burn rate. It looks like Sony was willing to overlook the amount of cash Bungie burns, though, to pursue the live service games. Sony has since cut back its live service ambitions. And of course, Tom Warren's headline, Microsoft considered. Well, I mean, on this occasion, I guess it is true. But it's really interesting that this has come out to play, and I actually heard this rumor a few days ago. I was sent a tweet about it from an Arabic source, and it actually turned out that it's potentially true or could be true. There was news that they actually approached Microsoft to buy them before they had moved over to Sony, and though Bungie vigorously denies actually going to Microsoft to get purchased, it seems there's a little more truth to that than meets the eye. It does seem like Bungie really did go to Microsoft, and Microsoft looked at the financials and said, you know what, Chief, this ain't it, and we're not really interested. We've been there once, we're just not interested again. And with Sony, they were so hell-bent, especially under Jim Ryan, to get the live service shtick actually working, that they were willing to overlook a few things. So yes, there may have been some upselling from Bungie, but just looking at the documents, you could have clearly seen the overburn, and their financial advisors would have picked this up at Sony. But instead, they decided that this was not going to be it. They didn't care about the overburning or the reckless spending. What they cared about was the talent and the people behind Bungie that make these live service games work. Little did they know that this was pretty much going to be a one-hit wonder, and Bungie was never going to recover or provide them the riches that they actually wanted. And it's pretty damning when you think about it, but at the same time, can anyone say that they're surprised, especially with the way Destiny has been? It's always been clear that Bungie was a knee-jerk reaction to Microsoft buying ABK, and, the reality is, it's been that way for quite some time. Now, if we look at this actual post here, it says, and this is from Elder Players, it says Microsoft was planning to acquire Bungie Studio in 2021 for the Destiny game and benefit from its expertise in field of service games, basically live service games. Now, Microsoft has been specializing in live service games for quite some time and has generally been quite successful, whether you look at Halo Infinite's multiplayer, Sea of Thieves, Forza Horizon. It just works. They're really good at it. Grounded. I could name a few more, but what's the point? You get the picture. They just are good at it, whereas Sony are quite awful at it. Concord. Concord. Watch Jeff Keighley give that game of the year. But before taking this step, the company evaluated the risks associated with the acquisition, as it found that Bungie's high expenses and investment of NetEase's $100 million studio is a drag. Now, I thought it was 300 million, but apparently it's 100 million. This could be wrong with 100 million. I still remember 300 million. Eventually, Bungie was acquired by Sony in 2022 for 3.6 billion. Now, at the time, we all said that they got a little bumped because there's no way that ZeniMax was 7 billion, and then one studio is going to be worth 3.6 billion. That just didn't make sense. This isn't Hoyoverse, where they've got Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, Honkai Impact Third, where they've got 4 or 5 studios working in there to actually equate to that value. Now, we're talking about one studio here with one game, and that's it. But do you know what? Someone actually called this out some time ago, and that is, of course, Michael Pachter. Michael Pachter, I guess. I hope I pronounced it right. And he said, and this just reads here, Wedbush Managing Director of Equity Research, Michael Pachter, on Sony's $3.6 billion deal. I think Sony vastly overpaid. I think this was a statement where we're not going to let Microsoft get ahead of us, so we'll just buy something out of this desperation. Now, this is actually a really important statement because he called this out in 2022, and everyone called him a fool, an idiot. He didn't know what he was talking about. He was a has-been, and he even used the example of EA buying Respawn and getting 700 million in return, and then said, Bungie will give you a return of 200 million, which just isn't enough to make your money back, even in the long term. You don't know where Bungie as a company or Destiny as a game is going to be. But people still ridiculed him for it. Yet 2.5 years later, what he said was holding true. And that's crazy, right? That's actually really, really crazy. And, good on him for predicting this quite well. But, as you can see from here, it was known from 2021 that this happened. So all the rumors that came out, all the news that came out, all the discussions that came out that Bungie was being acquired, or, Microsoft was looking into Bungie, Bungie had approached Microsoft first, these all seem to be true. And it looks like that after Microsoft turned down Bungie, Sony picked up the scraps and said, okay, we need to buy something to retaliate with ABK, and this is going to be it. This is Destiny. Remember all the talks about turning an anime series, a live-action movie, merch, and all of this and all of that, and none of this has really materialized from Sony either. It's almost like they just really didn't care until Bungie basically started faltering and basically just not sticking to what they promised they were going to do. Now, did Microsoft dodge a bullet? Hell yeah. They dodged a hell of a bullet. That bullet dodge was so great it put Keanu Reeves out of business. Seriously, that bullet dodge by saying no to Bungie was probably the best decision they've made. We constantly say that, Microsoft has often made mistakes when it comes to taking risks, making the right choice. I mean, the list is endless, right? From Insomniac Games to Spider-Man to GTA 3, and there's more. Genshin Impact, I could go on. But this one is the one that actually mattered. And this one, well, when I say it mattered, they all mattered, but this one clearly was a good decision. They dodged a bullet and made sure that they were not going to be involved in this turmoil. Can you imagine if these layoffs or this situation had occurred and it was Microsoft right now in charge doing the layoffs, and it was Microsoft, Microsoft's Phil Spencer buying these cars or whatever? I mean, the news about this whole Bungie thing has pretty much died after 2 days as far as the media is concerned. The public and the Twitter force are still going on for it, but in terms of like the overall media coverage, it's already dead. Can you imagine if this was Microsoft in place of Sony? This would have gone on for weeks on how a $1 trillion company is so evil and all this and all that. Yeah, we're talking about a multi-billion-pound company here. That's not a little amount of money, right? We're talking about a multi-$100 million company. So why aren't they held to the same standard? But either way, I think Microsoft dodged a massive bullet. I think they did damn good to actually skip this And you know what? Good on them, because this is a really good miss. Anyway, folks, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.